At some point pretty early on, I had already thought of a title and thumbnail I can give to this if I managed to do it.
Yeah. Because you have so much of the video, all you need is the record.
Exactly. So let me guess. You've probably done a time trial before. Most of us don't play time trials very much, despite it being one of the main game modes in Mario Kart. Time trials is not the most popular way to play Mario Kart, but in a way, you can say it's the purest form of Mario Kart. In the time trial game mode, you choose your character and vehicle combo, then you choose a track to play on. And once you begin a race, you get 3 mushrooms, and it's up to you to complete the race as fast as you can. At the end of the race, your time is recorded. That's it. No other racers, no item boxes, nothing. When you're playing a regular race with items, whether it's Grand Prix mode, versus mode, or even online against real players, there's the sense that you can make mistakes. It's okay. If you fly off the track at the start, it's not the end of the world. The game will give you better items, and making a comeback is always possible. This keeps the race exciting and close all the way until the end, because you never know what might happen. You always have a chance to pull an amazing item, dodge the shock, and end up with a completely undeserved win. But sometimes you'll spend the entire race in first place, only for an incredibly unlucky sequence of events to take you out right at the end. This phenomenon is quite fittingly known as getting Mario Karted. But of course, none of this is possible in time trials. Time trials completely takes the luck out of Mario Kart, and instead gives you the chance to put your destiny in your own hands. And today, I'm going to tell you the story about how I did just that and achieved something I never imagined I would be able to do. I didn't even want to do this. This was Rod's idea. Kind of. Okay, as most of you know, Rod, or RTAT120, is this other guy playing PD Piranha with me. Rod is a good friend of mine, and he has a YouTube channel where he uploads and streams Mario Kart. Earlier this year, I was practicing some tracks that I wasn't very good at, and to do that, I was playing 150cc time trials. However, I was not trying to set a record. In order to get good practice for online races, which is what I actually care about, I was doing what's called online lines, which basically just means don't use the mushrooms and don't always go for coins at the start of the race. This way, I get to simulate what it's like to front run in a race against other players. So one day, I hopped on a call with Rod and we started practicing together. We were picking tracks that we were not very good at, and which are also good for front running, such as Paris Promenade, 3DS Rainbow Road, and even Rosalina's Ice World, which some of you may notice is now one of my best tracks, thanks to exactly this sort of practice. However, a little while into Time Trial and Chill, I suddenly noticed that Rod was playing on Hyrule Circuit. Not only is this already one of his better tracks, but he was also using mushrooms. For some reason, Rod was just trying to get the best possible time he could get. You know, a regular time trial. But that's not the point of what we were doing. But next thing I knew, I was trying to beat his Hyrule Circuit record. How did you convince me to join you on that?
I don't really remember. I think we just started. Yeah, I mean, there's probably just some natural curiosity of oh, if I played this track with shrooms, what time could I get? But that's how it always starts. And then you're like, I can do better.
And so it began. On February 17th, 2024, Rod shared with me his record of 1 minute 52 seconds .129 on Hyrule Circuit. Now, keep in mind, this was basically his first decent try. This time is just over 5 seconds behind the world record, which generally speaking means you know how to drive the track at a decent level, but you're not amazing at it yet. And before I gave it my own shot, I just wanted to make sure I knew what the best strategies were. I mean, I know how to drive the track, but I don't know every detail. So I went to Online Ghosts and I downloaded the world record by Japanese player L to watch what they did. And as I was watching, I thought to myself, you know, this is a really clean run, and I definitely can't beat this. But I think I can do everything they're doing, so I raced against L. On second thought, let's race without a ghost. I'm going to get a faster time than Rod on Hyrule Circuit. The world record makes it look easy, but I quickly noticed that I was unable to even complete a time trial if I wanted it to be any good at all. And this was mainly because of a few really difficult sections on the track. To show you what I mean, let's look at the start of the run. Right at the start, we have by far the most difficult sequence of maneuvers to pull off. First of all, you need to get around this tiny bit of grass without touching it to line up a drift through the 2 coins. Mushroom through the grass, do a mini turbo trick at the exact right spot and angle so that you'll land just after the grass. Then hop to the right, hold right as you trick low on the ramp, and then pray that you're lined up to grab these 3 coins and charge up a purple mini turbo. Alright, got it? Now do it at full speed. Yeah, that is unbelievably tough. What makes this so hard is right here as you trick on the first ramp. If you don't trick at just the right spot, you will land literally anywhere else except where you need to land. And even if it looks like you landed close where you need to be, close is not good enough because you will have no time to set up for the next trick and your alignment will be completely off. And trust me, I am not overstating this, you pretty much have to be perfect throughout this entire sequence. When we watch world records, we often take for granted that these techniques just happen, but we don't get to watch all the times that they failed. Personally, I have failed this sequence in every conceivable way, and because of that, I can say that now, as of making this video, I am one of the best players in the world at nailing this sequence. But that's not how I started. Given that I had just begun practicing this track, I figured that the perfect beginning sequence was just not necessary for now. Instead, I performed it like this. It's also how the world record does the shortcut on lap 2 and lap 3. I figured I would just take that time loss if it means actually making it more than like 5 seconds into the run. The rest of the run is much more straightforward with a few interesting areas to note. As you head into the castle, these stairs are really tough to get just right. Because of how sharp this turn is, if you take a slightly wide turn, it's impossible to make it sharper since your vehicle is already turning at its sharpest. So if you have a bad entrance, you just lose a bunch of time. And you can try to take it perfectly, but you always risk hitting the wall. Then at the end of the run, we have the famous Hyrule Circuit Shroomless shortcut. Practically speaking, this shortcut is supposed to be relatively easy because you just mini turbo hop anywhere in this uphill region to easily clear it. But if you want the fastest version of the shortcut, you have to hop later and get a perfect landing, which is very risky. I'll talk more about this later because I have some things to say about this shortcut. Anyway, the rest of the run is pretty straightforward, except at the end of lap 1 and lap 2, you don't trick off the final ramp, but instead charge an orange mini turbo, which is pretty precise, but not that bad once you practice it. On lap 3, instead of charging a purple mini turbo in the last turn, we release an orange mini turbo, then do a mini turbo trick off the final ramp, ending with a Kusan slide to save a little bit more time. And that's all there is to it. Right after Rod shared his first record with me, we got on a call and time trialed this track for 2 hours straight. And at the end of it, Rod sets a personal best of 1 minute 49 seconds .741, about 2.5 seconds faster than his first time, and I'm close behind him, but I'm yet to achieve a time under 150. Do you remember how we doubted if we could even get a 149?
I do, yeah.
We got it in like 2 hours.
On so many tracks, you start time trialing. In those 2 hours that we time trialed, like, we probably played the track the same amount of times that we had in the past, like, 6 months.
Yeah, like, it can truly feel like you're doing everything you can, but you simply don't know what it looks like to even be good at this track. You don't have the eye for it yet. Rod held the best time out of the two of us at 149.741, although it wasn't exactly a fair fight. See, he was using this combo: Yoshi, Teddy Buggy, Roller, and Paper Glider. This is arguably the best combo in the game to use for online play, but more importantly, this is also the combo used in the world record on Hyrule Circuit. I was using a different combo with Mr. Scooty instead of Teddy Buggy. The Teddy Buggy comes with 2 more speed, while Mr. Scooty has 1 more mini turbo. There's pretty much 3 places in the run where Mr. Scooty is either faster or easier thanks to its higher mini turbo stat. However, Teddy Buggy is faster on every other portion of the track. It's close, but the Teddy Buggy is undoubtedly the better vehicle on Hyrule Circuit. And at this point, I was still 1 foot in the door with this whole time trial thing, and I really wanted to keep playing Mr. Scooty because that's my main. But we started time trialing at 10 a.m. and after we hung up the call, I kept going for hours. After I had already spent basically my entire day sitting at my desk, hitting restart, trying to beat Rod's time, I finally gave in. It was just too hard. I made the switch to Teddy Buggy, and a few hours later, I finally managed to do it. I time trialed for 10 hours straight to save less than 1/10 of a second. I did not stand up, I did not eat, I did nothing but time trial Hyrule Circuit. Actually, I lied. I did do something else in that time. I somehow managed to tie my self-worth to whether or not I could do better than my friend in this arbitrary challenge with the arbitrary self-imposed time limit of getting it done today. Okay, I'll admit, that's pretty toxic, and you shouldn't think that way. But if I had quit, then that means I'm a fraud who sucks at Mario Kart. So I made my choice. The next day, Rod and I decided to play again, and I tell him that my fingers are tired from Hyrule Circuit. This was an understatement. You ever have a really good workout and the next day you feel sore all over, which is painful, but also kind of nice?
Nice.
Because you know you've been productive and you can almost feel your muscles growing? Of course not, you're a gamer, but that's how it feels to move your body a lot in one day. What I felt was not that. It's just pain, and it's concentrated on my forearms and my fingers and somehow even my shoulders and my back. It doesn't just hurt to use my arms and hands, it hurts to relax. Oh! It hurts to exist. Okay, I'm sure you gamers can relate to that one. Anyway, Rod reminded me of our vision, and my brain was so broken that I decided to jump back in. After another 2-hour call, we really began to feel the struggle. Neither of us were able to break our records. Rod kept going after that, and an hour later, he gets a 149.456. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Rod got this time in 3 hours, while it took me 10 hours to get an even worse time. I really wanted to beat him back, but I was out of commission. Just an hour later, Rod gets a 149.510. This is not his best time, but it could have been if not for a small mistake. The next day, he shows me another close call, 149.520. It's now clear who is better. Not only does Rod hold the 3 fastest runs between the two of us, it took less time to do all of that than it took me to get the 4th ranked time. This, for me, was incredibly motivating. Later that day, I'm back to work, and my hands are not perfect, but they're good enough. And I was on fire. Not quite as good as Rod yet, but I'm knocking on that door. Less than an hour later, at 4:20 p.m., I get a 149.514. All of my time loss was just on lap 1. If I cleaned it up, I was going to beat his time with no problem. And just 8 minutes later, I smashed that door wide open with a 149.274. This one run containing my best ever lap 2 and my best ever lap 3. I did it. Sub 149 is inevitable. And I didn't stop there. That night, Rod and I are on a call again. Shortly into it, I'm on a killer run and I'm feeling invincible. I have the confidence that I'm better, and I get off to an amazing run. Noticing that I'm near the end of lap 3, Rod stops his own run to watch and see if I can pull it off, and I notice this out of the corner of my eye. This motivates me even more. And I do it. I get a 149.130. Suddenly, I've flipped the script, and now I have the fastest 2 runs between us, and it's not even close. But despite that, you may have noticed something interesting about our individual lap times. You see, Rod had an incredibly strong lap 1 in his record that I was unable to beat. However, I was saving time on lap 2 and lap 3. Looking at this, it's tempting to conclude that Rod is simply better at lap 1, while I am better at lap 2 and 3. But that's not the full story, and it actually goes much deeper than that. This discrepancy will give us a glimpse into the nature of speedrunning itself. Remember, what you're seeing here is just my fastest sum of 3 laps. Just by looking at this, you don't know my average time for each lap. In fact, you don't even know my fastest time for each lap. Would you believe it if I told you that I was very frequently beating Rod's lap 1 time? It's true, every few minutes I got a lap 1 that was faster. In fact, our best times for each lap were nearly exactly the same. So why do our records always seem to show that Rod's lap 1 is better? What's really going on here is that Rod simply resets more often. In any form of speedrunning, your goal is to beat your record. And if you get off to a run that's really bad, then you know there's no chance of beating your record. So what most people do in this situation is they will restart the run. So for Rod, if his lap 1 is bad, he will reset to get a better lap 1. So that's why his record always has an amazing lap 1. It's simply because he will not accept anything less than that. So Alberto, what do you think about this?
This is extremely relatable. This is exactly what happens most of the time.
This is Alberto. It would not be controversial to say that Alberto is the greatest time trial player of all time in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So far, he has set 1,685 world records since this game released, which is an incredible lead over second place. In the last 2 years, he averaged more than 1 world record per day. That is incredible. So let's hear what he has to say.
I focus more on consistency and getting runs started, right? So my lap 1s are generally a bit worse on most tracks because of that. And the person I'm competing against is just a bot, right? So he just constantly restarts on lap 1 to get a perfect lap, but then laps 2 and 3 kind of fall apart.
Right, they don't get a lot of chances at lap 2 and 3 because they keep resetting lap 1.
Exactly, because they don't get enough chances, so they can't practice it enough under pressure.
Rod is a bot, confirmed.
And it's not a bad thing, because they end up getting crazy good runs with crazy good lap 1s that I can never beat.
It's really a trade-off with your time investment, and it's hard to say where exactly is the right balance, right? Because I personally think that it's better to complete more of your runs, but how many more, right? You can't never reset.
Yeah, obviously you want to start taking risks in lap 1 at some point, because otherwise you'll just be too slow. It's important to balance them, as you said. I agree with you completely in that. And it's such an important part about time trials as well, that most people don't do.
Something a lot of people think of when they think about speedrunning is that speedrunning is about getting a perfect run. If everything goes just right, then we get the fastest possible time. And I mean, perfect runs are possible in some categories of some games, but it's definitely not the norm. In most cases, speedrunning is not about getting the perfect run. Speedrunning is about knowing that you will never get a perfect run. So what are you going to do about it? If I taught you how to do every portion of the Hyrule Circuit time trial broken down into very small segments, and I got you to practice each segment until you could do it perfectly just once, then in theory, you could put it all together and break the world record. I know it's very, very unlikely, but if you tried long enough, you'd eventually break the world record with a perfect run. In this case, I would say you have mastered just one out of the 3 pillars of improvement. You have the knowledge of exactly what to do. You just can't quite do it yet. Of course, the next thing you need is consistency. The higher success rate that you have for each technique you use in the run, the more likely you will be able to put it all together for one great run. But you'll never be perfectly consistent, so you'll have to try many times. So the final pillar of improvement is time. Even though the whole point of speedrunning is to complete something in as little time as possible, you will need to spend a lot of time in order to complete a run that is actually fast. Even if you know exactly what to do and you're really good at it, you will never be able to do every technique 100% of the time. So the reality is, you must restart your runs over and over until you manage to get a good run. And depending on your consistency, this can take a lot of time. What do you think is your greatest strength that sets you apart from other time trialers?
My consistency and my game knowledge.
So yeah, a lot of people don't know this because they just see you as the guy who holds the world records, but you've discovered a lot of the strategies yourself or like with the help of other people.
On most tracks I've set a world record. I found something. It doesn't have to be like a big strat, but I found a small optimization, for example.
Do you think that your style of practice made you more consistent? Or do you think you're just naturally very consistent?
It was always natural. I just try to play when I feel like I'm going to improve.
I think when you say something like, I just played, it was just natural, I'm just like consistent, I think that you may have just accidentally stumbled upon a really good strategy and you recognize that other people aren't doing that.
That was always my approach, so I guess that helped a lot in the long run.
For you, that came naturally, but for someone like me, I had to learn this. And this is something I never did when I was doing my random little speedrunning when I was younger, because it didn't feel good to continue a run that I know is dead.
Yeah.
Right? I was doing the wrong approach. So I don't judge anyone for like doing it that way, but I definitely have to make a conscious effort to try and make it through to more runs because I believe that's the smarter thing to do, but it's not natural for me.
Exactly, yeah, that's the key.
And I think that makes perfect sense. Consistency is arguably the most important aspect of speedrunning. Think about it like this. If I had perfect knowledge of what to do, like not even just world record level, but tool assist level of knowledge, if I had the theoretical fastest way to complete a time trial, it doesn't help if I'm not consistent enough. If there is a 1 in 1,000 chance of nailing a certain fast technique and I have to do it on all 3 laps, that's 1 in a billion. In other words, it's not going to happen. Perfect knowledge is not nearly enough to achieve that goal. Now, what about time? If you're willing to put all your time into something, will you achieve your goal? For example, if I looked into the future and I told you that if you work hard every day for 5 years straight, you will get a world record in Mario Kart. 5 years. Are you actually going to do that? For most of you, your answer is probably no. That's way too much work for something that is not even that important to you. Or imagine you had started working on this 5 years ago. Do you think you would have quit by now? I might as well tell you that you will never get the record, because that's the same thing. Think about that for a moment. If you cannot achieve a goal within a reasonable amount of time, you will just never achieve that goal. But what if you had perfect consistency? At that point, it would just be a matter of learning all the necessary techniques, not even the best techniques, just enough to get the record. And then your very next run would be the world record, because you would just do all the techniques perfectly. It's that simple. Consistency is by far the most important factor to improving in speedrunning. I get to enjoy just under 24 hours where I'm feeling great about myself. I have the 2 best times between me and Rod, and it's a pretty big gap, but it was a mistake to get too comfortable, because remember, Rod is really good at Mario Kart, and the next day he starts practicing. Just a few minutes into time trialing, Rod sets his own new best time, the first one he's had with a bad lap 1. This is bad news for me. He is accepting bad lap 1s now, and that means he's getting more practice on lap 2 and lap 3. That's character development. Rod went out of his comfort zone to destroy me, and I wouldn't have it any other way. On February 21st, 2024 at 8:12 p.m., Rod gets a 149.023, less than 2 frames away from a 148. And what made this run even more impressive is that it took him less than 1 hour to get it. Even though he takes the lead, he doesn't stop. He's posting good time after good time, not quite beating his record, but he's giving himself so many chances to do it. This was a level of consistency that was scaring me. And to end off the night, he sends me this, a 150.766, which is not a good time on its own, but he just set the fastest lap 1 we had ever seen, with a great lap 3 to go with it. That was all the time he had for tonight, but keep in mind, this all happened over the span of less than 2 hours. And an hour later, I decided to begin time trialing. Less than 20 minutes in, I get a 149.110, which barely beats my own best time. Not only is this the best lap 3 time we've ever seen, but I made a crucial error right at the end, meaning this could have been even better. This gave me a lot of confidence that I have what it takes, so I kept pushing forward. Soon after, I get a 149.207. All of the time loss is on lap 1. I keep pushing. It then takes me over an hour to finally get another decent run, and the main reason is that I can't get low air on the trick ramp at the start of the run. Yes, that's right, at this point, we are no longer doing easy strats at the start. We have both learned how to do the start of lap 1 properly, but it's just so difficult that I'm unable to make it consistently deep into runs, and I know that Rod is much better than me at this section. I'm literally just resetting the beginning of lap 1 over and over because I can't do it. But I didn't give up, and eventually this happened. On February 22nd, at 11 minutes past midnight, I got a 1 minute 48 seconds .812. Daisy's face perfectly shows what I'm feeling at this moment. How did I improve by 0.3 seconds in one run? Well, somehow it all came together. No mistakes, just a slight inaccuracy after the shroomless shortcut due to nerves, but overall, it's as close to a perfect run as I could have hoped for. Even this lap 2 time was faster than my best ever lap 3 time. The next day, Rod congratulates me on winning the race to 148 and then says this, "I don't think I'm beating that."
But no, I mean, it was super fun and it's like motivating, right? I mean, I'm sure it was for you too, to like have someone at the similar skill level.
Exactly, yeah. It's hard to find someone who's exactly the same skill level as you. It's rare to like, you know, have such a tight battle where we just kept going back and forth.
Yeah, our times were really close. You're right. It was like we're improving on each other by like 0.1, 0.2.
You had a really, really strong 149.023.
Yes.
Which, by the way, is less than 2 frames away from sub 149. In another universe, like, you would have gotten it and you would have won. Like, it was so close. It was down to the wire.
It's tough because it's not so close that it's like heartbreaking. Like, it wasn't like a 0.001. But in my mind, when I saw this, it was like, okay, my next improvement is going to be a sub 149, but it's not going to beat Shortcat's time. And I don't really care about sub. Like, I just care about beating Shortcat. And I would have to like basically get a 0.7 to do that. I'm not even going to try to beat this. I think that was my thought process.
Because our goal was to get a 148, and I didn't expect to get a near perfect run. I mean, like, what you want in speedrunning is a perfect run, but
Yeah.
I get this close to it, and it wasn't just like you quit. I quit too. And like, that's kind of what happens when you get a run that like you don't feel like you can beat.
Because yeah, it never meant to be like a whole thing. We just started as this race to 148, and you won, and it's like, you know, good games. And then something brought you back.
I wouldn't have had any regrets if I stopped right there. I achieved something that I was very proud of, I had fun doing it, and I could now say that Hyrule Circuit is one of my best tracks. My online results on Hyrule Circuit were improving as well, and that was the whole reason we started doing this. But nearly 3 months later, I had some extra time one day. So with no particular goal in mind, I just started time trialing Hyrule Circuit again. My last run was basically perfect, so now this is just for fun. I mean, there's no way I beat the time, right? A 148.592. Thanks to the best ever lap 1 and my best ever lap 3 in the same run, I skipped right past 0.7 and 0.6, and now I'm sitting at a 0.5. I was incredibly happy with this run, not just for how good it was, but also for how unexpected it was. This time, I shared my new record with a group chat, and the first person to respond was none other than Alberto. And there's Pi, another top player and good friend of mine who taught me a lot of advanced techniques. With this new run being basically perfect, I once again had to contend with such a good time that it just didn't feel possible to beat that. So it was time for another break, this time for just under 2 months before coming back to give it another go. In just a matter of days, the so-called near-perfect run had been beaten by nearly half a second. I was on pace to achieve a sub-148 run, and somehow my rate of improvement is even faster than when I was trying to get a sub-149 run. Each time that I took a break for a few months, I came back much stronger than before. How is this possible? Well, here's my theory. Taking a break from practicing a skill usually just means you'll be rusty, and therefore worse when you return. This is because you have muscle memory for that skill, and just like regular memory, muscle memory fades over time, and you have to relearn the parts that you lost. But this can work to your advantage, because while muscle memory can help you, it can also limit you, forcing you to conform to bad habits that you didn't know you even had. With enough time to forget these habits, you now have a much easier time learning new ones. Another thing that changed for me was my mindset. When I got the 148.812, my goal was just to get a time under 149 because I was in a race with Rod. Now, the thing is, the easier your goal is, the less you have to learn in order to reach that goal. I had no reason to try and perfect all the world record strategies because I'm not going for the world record. So I could have much lower standards in my knowledge, which does limit my potential, but it also means I naturally will have higher consistency since I'm using easier strategies. And this means it takes less time for me to achieve a great run by my own standards. But if I want to beat a run that, to me, is nearly perfect, the best way to do that is to increase my knowledge, and therefore increase my potential. I'll take a temporary drop in consistency, that's fine, because with practice, my consistency will find its way back up. So I began studying what I could do better on the track, and the first thing that came to mind is the Shroomeless shortcut. Yeah, I promise to come back to this one. So, as you've seen, this is the Shroomeless shortcut, or NISC, on Hyrule Circuit. At first glance, it's surprising that it's even possible to be done so fast on 150cc without a mushroom, but once you learn more about this game, you know that mini turbo hopping on an upward slope is kinda broken. In fact, you can hop insanely early, and just because it's an upward slope, you can clear the shortcut, and it's much faster than going around. This is a tough technique to master at first, but most Mario Kart players who really practice the game will find this shortcut to be no problem, at least if you're just trying to make it across. There are several ways to do this shortcut. You can go to the right of the tree, which is faster, or you can go to the left of the tree, which is easier. Coming from the castle, you can land in a drift and barely get a mini turbo in time before the hop, which is faster, or you can take a wider turn to charge the mini turbo, which is easier. Then there's the shortcut on lap 3. On lap 3, the plant comes out and you have to go slightly left to dodge the plant, otherwise you're losing lots of time. So that's all the ways you can do the Hyrule Circuit shortcut in a regular race. But in a high-level time trial, if you want to go as fast as possible, things are a bit different. The good news is that out of all these variations, you only have to do one. The bad news is the one way that you have to do the shortcut is soul-crushingly difficult. Here, watch this version of the shortcut. Alright, now watch this version. Oh, did you not notice I saved 0.2 seconds on the second one? That's the difference between a good run and a bad run. It all comes down to the exact way that you clip the grass as you exit the shortcut. If you clip it like this, you keep all your speed. If you clip it like this, you now have to reset the run. Oh, and 0.2 seconds is an optimistic amount of time loss. You can lose up to half a second by doing a slow shortcut. But shortcut, you say? These look so similar. How can I make sure that I get the fast version? And my answer is, I don't know. I'd love to know the answer to that. Now, you may have noticed that there is a bit of a difference. I'm jumping farther on the shortcut that ends up being fast. So you might think, just go farther. But anything you do to risk jumping farther risks having this happen. And somehow dodging the grass completely like this is slower than clipping the grass in the correct way. So I guess the answer is just be perfect. The best I can do is try to mini turbo hop right where the shadow meets the light, then left hop as soon as I land, and just hope for the best. Oh, did I say hop as soon as I land? No, what I meant to say was hop before I land. Oh boy, here we go. This game is so weird. If you input a hop as you land, you will just lose speed for touching grass. You need to input a hop slightly before you land. Then the game buffers this input for a short period, causing you to get a frame-perfect hop. You just have to hit the hop button right before you land. But how do you know when you're about to land? Good question. I don't know. The only visual indication of when you're about to land is this shadow. But since the shadow is coming from behind you, it only shows up for a few frames before you land, and this is not within the window of human reaction time. In other words, there is no reliable visual cue for when you will actually land. But okay, we're doing the shortcut the same way every time, right? So doesn't that mean you land with the same timing every time? Well, you should, Except you won't, because you are not going to hop in the exact same position and frame every single time. Not to mention that if you release your mini turbo even slightly earlier before your first hop, you actually fly farther. Good luck taking that into account when timing your second hop. And even if you nail the second hop, your position might be slightly off from optimal and you will get a slow shortcut. But okay, let's say by some miracle, you got the fast shortcut. From here, there are two things that can happen. You now have to quickly react to which one you got. The first one looks like this. The second one looks like this. They look the same, right? But they're not. On the first one, I slide off the grass. On the second one, I bounce a little bit on the grass. And depending on which one I get, the inputs I have to do are completely different. As I explain this section, watch Daisy's arms to see which way I'm steering. Okay, so if you slide off the grass, then you just take this turn normally by making adjustments both left and right to take the optimal line. But if you bounce off the grass, then you will temporarily lose traction, and you just have to hold left the whole time to compensate for the traction loss. So depending on a small visual detail of how you exited the shortcut, you have to do completely different inputs if you want to take the optimal line afterwards. And remember, these two only look similar because I'm doing a good job of correcting for the traction loss. If you don't notice that you got the bounce, then this can happen. This is exactly what happened at the end of my 148.812 that caused me to lose around 0.2 seconds right at the end of the run. And of course, this nuance could potentially kill your run. And that's all assuming you even got the fast shortcut to begin with. I came to time trials to take luck out of the equation of Mario Kart. But look at this. This is basically RNG. When I play time trials in general, I feel like I'm being tested on my ability to do precise inputs. But when I do this shortcut, I feel like the game is generating a random scenario and testing my ability to adapt to it. That is still a skill, but it's a different kind of skill. It's the same type of skill that we use when playing regular races and dealing with the infinite situations that random items can create. And I'm having to deal with this in time trials. But then I realized, isn't this actually true for all of time trials? Like, yes, nothing is truly random in time trials, but it doesn't have to be. Your ability to reproduce the same inputs every time is random. Every time you will be slightly off in a slightly different way, and then you have to adapt to that difference in how you tackle the next part of the track, and you can get more and more skilled to the point where you can easily adapt to these slight differences and still succeed. But at the end of the day, there is still variation that you cannot fully control. And this is something I never understood before taking on this journey. I always thought time trials were all about hitting this precise sequence of inputs, and it's just the same thing every time. But if that's truly what it was all about, I don't think so many people would be interested in time trials and spend all day doing this. In the same way that the randomness of items in Mario Kart forces you to come up with solutions to a variety of situations and therefore express a greater amount of skill, time trials are much the same. Ultimately, there are always going to be factors that are beyond your own control. Some people will say that this makes the game unfair, but what separates the exceptional players is they will find a way to win in spite of that. Practically speaking, 1 minute and 47 seconds is the final full second barrier on Hyrule Circuit, at which point you are considered to be at an elite level. Sure, it's possible to get a 146, as proven by the world record set by L, but only one person has done it. If I could snag a 147, that would put me up there with some of the best Mario Kart players in the world. So on July 9th, I was back at it. Again, I was able to quickly improve, this time with the 148.040. This was less than 3 frames away from a sub 148, and honestly, it was quite a heartbreaker. You can't see it here, but at this point in the run, it was going so well that the ghost from my previous record was completely off screen. I make the shortcut perfectly, but I get a low traction landing and take the turn too wide by mistake. With a slightly cleaner ending, I could have saved nearly 1/10 of a second. Even with an incredibly fast run up to this point, you really can't afford to lose focus for even 1 second, or you will miss these rare opportunities. To add insult to injury, less than an hour later, I managed to get a 148.043, which features my best ever lap 3 time. That's cool, but like, why couldn't I have done this lap 3, or even just an okay lap 3 in the previous run? But the good thing is, I have the confidence that I can do this. Even though it was painful to see how close each of these were to being a 147, I have proven to myself that I don't need a lucky break to get it. I'm skilled enough to achieve it, and I tell myself that, but actually getting it done is a different story. When I'm playing well, I really want to take advantage of it and attempt as many runs as possible. But by 3 AM, I'm starting to get tired. Once you make it this late into the night, it becomes easy to convince yourself to keep going, because otherwise, what was it all for? How can I just go to bed with 2 failures on my hands? I want this all to be worth something.
It's so obvious, but it's actually important. You have to play when you feel like you're going to improve.
Right. Let's say usually I can get a good run going every 10 minutes. When I'm not playing well, maybe I get a good run going every 30 minutes. And so what happens is, when I finally do get a good run, it's so much more nerve-wracking, because I'm like, this is so rare, I really need to take advantage of this opportunity.
In that session, it becomes very important suddenly. Like, you have to finish that because you're not gonna get another chance.
Also, I'm not playing well right now.
Yeah,
so
that's a deadly combination. I felt that before, for sure. If you just play when you're tired or when your session is already like dying, you're not getting any runs. It becomes so annoying. Like, you just have to stop at that point, and most people don't realize that.
After going to bed, I once again did what I do best, and I took another 2-week break. Are you kidding me? 0.002? That is less than 1 frame away from a 147. It's less than 1/5 of a frame away. And the worst part is, I didn't even do anything wrong. The run had an extremely solid lap 1 and lap 2, and I went into lap 3 slightly behind my ghost, so I had to really clutch up and perform a great lap 3. And I did just that, but it wasn't enough. Runs like these can be very disheartening, when you do everything right, but it just wasn't quite enough. All you can do at this point is just reset the run and try again. Even though you were so close you could almost feel it, you don't get to have it, and you may as well forget you were even there. But at the same time, runs like these are extremely important to the journey of every speedrunner. Even though I have failed to achieve my goal on this run, in a way, this run is a success, because from this run, I gain confidence. To me, confidence is one of the most important aspects, and perhaps one of the most misunderstood aspects to achieving a goal. Confidence is the belief in yourself that you are capable of something. It sounds simple, but you cannot just conjure confidence out of thin air like a hero who learns to believe in themselves at the end of a movie. No, confidence has to be real. You have to actually believe it. And to do that, you need evidence. I could say to myself, I can beat the Hyrule Circuit world record, but that will not make me confident. At worst, that sentence is a lie, and at best, I have no reason to believe it, because I've never achieved anything like this. This is an unrealistic goal, and when I fail, I will feel less confident, because now I have evidence that I cannot achieve my goals. But I have evidence that I can achieve a new personal record. I can set a new personal record today because on many of the days that I've tried, I have done it. Now, when I get a fast pace into lap 3, my hands start shaking, and I feel the pressure to perform, I will not doubt myself. I'm confident because I've done this before, so I can do it again. And if I fail on lap 3, when I fail on lap 3, simply knowing that I do have a chance to succeed is enough to get me to hit restart and try again. Maybe the next run will be the record, and if not that one, maybe the one after, or after that. It will happen eventually, and I'm not just hoping. Hope is not based on anything, and in the face of failure after failure, hope can quickly turn into doubt. But I'm not hoping. I'm confident that I will do it. What I've learned from all these close calls is not that I'm a failure, but that I can repeatedly set myself up for a small chance at success, and that is why I keep trying. Exactly 1 hour after my most heartbreaking attempt, this happened. I did it. It was an incredible feeling to achieve something that you never thought would be possible for yourself. To think that just a few months ago, I was struggling, getting frustrated at myself for 10 hours straight to get a 149. And now I have a 147, which is an elite level record. The same number that all but one of the best Mario Kart players in the world have next to their name. I now have it too. But before I have time to celebrate, Alberto has something to say. Alberto wants me to try to get top 10 in the world? I don't know if I can do that. That's Alberto. I'm just a short cat. I'm not the same breed of speedrunner. Like, I'm just some guy. Okay, I don't have to get top 10 in the world. I'm just gonna go until I hit a wall and I can't make any more progress. What I've done so far is more than I ever thought I could do, and I learned so much about time trials, about improvement, about the mindset it takes to get there, and about myself, what I do in the face of failure. I'm very proud of myself. So at the end of this, I'll make a video just about my journey in time trials in general. I'll interview Alberto, and it'll make a great video either way. You said I had the potential to get top 10 in the world.
Yeah.
Alberto, why would you make such an outlandish claim?
Because you were playing for such a relatively short amount of time, so it felt natural to assume that you will get there eventually.
Okay, so you weren't just saying it, like you really believed it?
Of course, yeah.
That's crazy.
I myself wanted to see you get a top 10, because it was going to be like a huge deal to see Shortcat getting top 10, so I really wanted it to happen.
So against everything that made sense to me, I decided to take him up on his deal. Alberto was going to watch my run and give me advice on how to improve, and in return, I have to beat Alberto's record on Hyrule Circuit. Just kidding, I didn't have to. Alberto was brutal with the feedback. The chain is stronger? Yeah, the chain, that's right. I know what you're talking about. Look, a lot of what Alberto told me was a bit confusing and did not feel faster to me, at least with my current understanding of the game. And I'm usually the Mario Kart teacher. So sometimes I can feel myself naturally getting a bit defensive when I don't agree with something that I, myself, should be the expert on. But obviously, Alberto knows better than me. Even then, I find it really important to recognize these moments and consciously tell myself that now I'm no longer the teacher. I'm the student, and I have to trust my teacher. And I'm going to be the best student in the world. So I took Alberto's advice to the racecourse and started practicing. For the first time in a long time, I was really trying to improve my skills instead of just spamming runs until I got a new personal best. Since I was keeping track of my best individual lap times, I knew what my potential best run could be. My best lap 1, 2, and 3 times were 36.877, 35.488, and 35.295. In total, this would give me a perfect run of 147.660, which is impressive, but completely unrealistic, and not even top 10. So I first needed to get better. As I implemented some of the new things Alberto told me to do, I quickly realized something. What he told me to do was slower. Just kidding, I just needed to practice it a bit, and turns out it's all faster. Who would have guessed it? But that doesn't mean I can immediately get faster runs. My knowledge just went up, but my consistency has dropped, and this makes it much more difficult to piece together a full run. But that's okay, because sometimes you have to descend the mountain in order to reach the summit. And just over 1 week later, I finally got a full run. A 147.789. Another huge improvement, but this one felt thoroughly deserved. I had just spent a week refining my run, and this run was incredibly solid. I barely lost time to Alberto's lap 1 and lap 3, and in fact, this was my fastest lap 3 ever, and nearly all the time loss only happened on lap 2. For the first time, I started thinking to myself, wait, I might actually be able to do this. And as you probably noticed, this is the first run featuring a ghost on screen. I've been racing against my own ghosts this whole time, but I only ever recorded the replays when I got a new personal best, so that's why nothing you've seen so far features a ghost. But at this point, I realized I might be making a video out of this whole journey, so if I can get a top 10 or not, regardless, from now on, I'm going to record all my runs for the content. How old were you when you first started getting really good at Mario Kart?
This was when I was 10 or 11 years old. Which is still insane to think about.
Yeah. What about the top players now?
They're around my age or a bit younger now.
Oh, okay. Wow, you're actually older.
I'm a grandpa now, and I'm 19.
This is the only run I've ever had that wasn't losing to Alberto going into lap 3, but I know in the back of my mind that even my best ever lap 3 is not good enough to beat him here. If I just play it safe, I'll get a new personal best, but if I risk it, I could become top 10 in the world. What would you choose? My alignment off the shortcut did not allow me to take a tight line next to the grass. I was rapidly losing time, so I went for the perfect stairs, and I hesitated. But I know I can make it back on the shortcut. See, I'm familiar with Alberto's Ghost, and I know that his lap 3 shortcut is ever so slightly slow. And I caught him. But I have never been in this situation before. I'd practiced for months, I'd prepared all I could prepare, I've clutched lap 3s before, but I've never been in this situation, and after a slightly wide turn, it's already lost. It is not possible to make up this time on the final turn, but almost as if in protest of reality, I take the final turn tighter than what is possible, and the grass gets me. Hey, that's a new personal best. Yeah, it was, but I didn't celebrate. This was my chance. This is the opportunity I've been trying to create for myself for months now. I don't care if I didn't hit the grass here, this run would have been a low 147.6. That's not top 10. I don't care what my best time is, 0.7, 0.6, whatever. It makes no difference. I can get top 10. So I'm going to get top 10. For the first time ever, I was ahead of Alberto going into lap 3, and the shock I felt, plus the fact that it was 2:30 a.m. and I immediately make a mistake that I never make. But after another long hour of reset hell, I somehow pull this off. What you're seeing here all happened within 1 hour. Some were closer than others, but these were all heartbreaking failures. And yeah, doing lap 3 well, in general, is tough. The ending shortcut is basically luck. But I'm making, let's be honest, pretty stupid mistakes. These are not mistakes that I should be making. So I had to admit it. I was crumbling under the pressure. And on this day, I only played really well for 1 hour, and my success rate was 0%. So again, I did what I do best, and I took a 2-week break. So like, I'm a lot older now, like I'm like late 20s. It's not like too old to learn something.
It's harder to learn.
Yeah, like I know when all the best players got better, and it was all like at an age that was very different from the age I am now.
Most of players now are very young, like 16.
Yeah, I do feel like that's sort of, if you're going to become the like best in the world level at something, that's kind of the age where people make a lot of their improvements.
Yeah, that's the perfect age to improve quickly at something.
Yeah. Also, I think when you're younger, so everyone knows that when you're younger, like you have more time to dedicate to this stuff. But when you're older, you're smarter and you should be able to improve better. So I think one thing that people don't really talk about is that when you're younger, it's so much easier to really, really want something, you know? Like, if I can do this, this is gonna change my life.
That as well, yeah. You feel the need to meet your goals. Yeah, you just really want to make a name for yourself.
After the break, I came back a bit rusty. It took some time to get back in the swing of things, but I managed to get a pretty decent run. Since I wasn't going to beat Alberto anyway, I took an unnecessary risk again, which might have cost me from getting a new personal best. 2 days later, I had definitely shaken off the rust. I had several runs go deep, including the first time I had ever kept Alberto off my screen until the lap 2 glider. Unfortunately, a bad shortcut on lap 2 cost me the lead. 10 minutes later, I'm doing really great all the way until the end of lap 3, and I get a slow shortcut and get planted. 20 minutes after that, I managed to keep Alberto off screen again until the lap 2 glider, almost failed near the end of lap 2, but miraculously kept it together to give myself a fighting chance on lap 3. Putting together the lap 3 of my life, I managed to somehow keep pace with him. If I get a perfect shortcut here, I could catch up. I'm starting to doubt myself. See, failing the lap 3 shortcut does not mean I choked. I can only get the fast shortcut about 1/3 of the time, so it's not a huge deal if I fail it. The nature of probability is that I'm going to have hot streaks where I make it very consistently, and I'm going to have cold streaks where I fail it consistently. And right now, I have to tell myself that I'm in the middle of a lap 3 shortcut cold streak. It's not like I can't do it, right? I mean, I literally make the same shortcut on lap 1 and 2. That's why I'm even on this pace during lap 3. But making it 3 times in a row is just so unlikely. The best thing I can do is try to make it here more often. That way I give myself more chances to clear the shortcut. But with each failure, it becomes more and more difficult to really believe that I can do this. I just keep telling myself, if I can do it on lap 1 and then lap 2, I can do it on lap 3. I know I can. And sure enough, later that day, I finally did it. I made the perfect lap 3 shortcut and I end the run perfectly. Yeah, it's not quite the same when Alberto's ghost is so far away, but even though this run is not my personal best, I consider this run to be the best one I've ever done. Where the run truly died was at the end of lap 2 where I got a slow shortcut, but this means I only made one minor mistake the entire run. And this reignited the confidence in myself that I can pull off a good lap 3. And the very next day, this happened. Yes! Oh. Other than being quite a solid run, this run was not remarkable by any means, except for one thing. I actually completed it. I don't know if you were counting, but the last time I completed a run without mistakes was 18 days ago. I had gotten so much better in this time that simply completing a run gave me a new personal best. And I didn't expect to react the way I did, but I actually got emotional. And I realized in this moment, I've been going at this all wrong. Remember this? The one where I was tied going into lap 3 for the first time ever, lost time, but made it up on the shortcut, panicked, and immediately lost the time back, and in a fit of denial, I drove straight into the grass. I didn't think about this beforehand, but in the moment, I decided that my personal best does not matter. What matters is beating Alberto's ghost no matter what, and getting top 10 in the world. In fact, if I had just played it safe and not hit the grass, this run would still be much faster than the new personal best I had just set. So why am I getting emotional over a new personal best that is not top 10 in the world, and in my mind, not even the fastest run I've achieved? Well, this is because I forgot what it felt like. Forget beating Alberto's record. I didn't realize it before, but I had lost the confidence that I could even beat my own record. My expectations were set so high that I can only get what I deem a good run deep into lap 3, maybe 2 times per day. And once I'm there, I need to set my best ever lap 3. Imagine getting 2 tries to set a personal best lap time. That's not gonna happen. What was I thinking? I triggered a slump. I set the goalpost too far, I couldn't reach it, and failure after failure after failure caused me to lose confidence in myself. Knowledge, consistency, and time. I thought I had enough of the first 2, and I could just do the time. Spam runs, spam resets until I achieved my goal. But here's the funny thing about time. It doesn't just happen all at once. I need to sit down, pick up my controller, play for at least an hour before I even find out if I'm playing well or not today, then grind this track at full focus for several hours only to have a few chances at a lap 3, or maybe even no chances. But if I do get any chances, I'll probably fail all of them because what I'm demanding of myself is just too unlikely. And then I have to try again another day. Repeat this for another day, and another, and another, and another day, all the while never making any progress, and convincing myself that throwing another entire day at this is worth my time, when I could be doing literally anything else. And with each failure, I am reminded of the fact that I cannot do this. I cannot beat Alberto's time. I cannot be top 10 in the world. And you know what? Maybe I can't, but at least I know I can beat my own record. So let's start with that.
If you go a long time without improvements because you just play way too risky, it's just gonna turn against you very quickly. You need to improve often to stay motivated.
So I took a 3-week break. Alright, look, best pace ever going into lap 3, you might call this a choke. I call this one mistake away from top 10 in the world. This run died pretty early. I got a slow lap 1 shortcut and that ended it. But I found that it really helps to have a completed run once in a while just to prove to myself that I can still do this. Plus, it's my first day back. I'm rusty. A 147.616, a new personal best. On this run, I was only ahead by 0.026 going into lap 3, which essentially means the run is dead, unless I can get a best ever lap 3. But that's not what I'm going for here. I just want practice. Even though I failed to beat Alberto, I did not fail myself. It is such a rare occasion that I get to race Alberto's lap 3 Ghost, and I need all the experience I can get. Even though it was a bit sloppy, if I could just clean it up a little bit and give myself a slightly bigger lead going into lap 3, that would be a top 10 for me. I am so close. 147.561, another new personal best, and this run really could have been it. If I didn't take a slightly worse line to dodge the rock, but if I didn't do that, I might have just hit the rock. I don't know that this could have beaten Alberto, so as much as it stings to have lost this opportunity, I'm just happy to get a new personal best. I am only 3 frames away from Alberto, and I'm still improving. You know what? I don't need to get lucky to beat him. I think I'm truly good enough to do it now. On September 23rd, 2024, I was doing runs for an hour and a half with absolutely no good results. It was just reset after reset after reset, but then at 12:59 p.m., this happened. There's no doubt about it, this was absolutely a choke. But I finally got a taste of what a good run feels like, and what you're about to witness is the greatest I have ever played in Mario Kart. Just 5 minutes later, I somehow got my best ever lap 3 to finish off what is now my second best time ever. The first 2 laps could have been a bit faster, but this run had absolutely no mistakes. So let's keep it going. In this run, I had a slow lap 1 and a slightly slow shortcut on lap 2. I was behind by 0.2 seconds going into lap 3, which pretty much means that this run is dead. I decided to finish it anyway, just for practice. And for the third time today, I had just achieved my best lap 3 time. If I can pull out lap 3s like this, then today has to be the day. I just gotta keep trying. I'm barely ahead going into lap 3, but somehow I managed to stay ahead all the way past the lap 3 glider, which is extremely rare for me. So it's the same plan as usual. Keep it together until the shortcut and save time right at the end. But I get a bit of a weird shortcut, which only keeps pace with Alberto. I improvise well and achieve my new second best time ever. If I got the fast shortcut here like I had done plenty of times today, this would have been the run. All I can do is try to get back to this point again and do it right next time. On the very next run, I finished lap 1 with a solid lead. On lap 2, I noticed I was a bit slow since Alberto showed up on my screen during the glider, so I tried to take a risk on the stairs, but the turn wasn't quite tight enough. Alberto starts to catch up to me, and you really have to be perfect. A slightly suboptimal exit on the lap 2 shortcut, and I'm behind going into lap 3. I need this lap 3 to be really fast. And somehow, I'm keeping up. I only lose a little bit of time throughout the entire lap, and all I need to do is hit this shortcut. I really tried, man. I got a good shortcut, but I was so scared by how tight I took the next turn, and it was actually fine. But simply put, I panicked, and I cleared the rock by way too much. I was set up for a better line than Alberto on the final turn, and I just didn't take the turn tightly. It's like the universe is testing me. You don't get to have this easy. You have to fail the ending in every possible way. Is this really how this is going right now? I can get amazing lap 3s. This lap 3 was amazing. But again, it's a simple mistake right at the end. But hey, I kept up with Alberto for nearly an entire lap. I can make this shortcut. I can beat his lap 3 time. So I'm going to stay positive and take that confidence with me. I'm playing so well right now. I can do this today. It has to be today. An hour and a half passes. Well, no, it didn't just pass. I was grinding out runs for that entire hour and a half with absolutely nothing to show for it. But then, unexpectedly, I start to get on a really good run. I was only ahead by 0.1 after lap 1, which usually means the run is already dead. But as my consistency was dwindling for the day, I made sure to keep going and get some practice on the final 2 laps. And plus, I can always risk it on the stairs to save some time. Alright, now this run is alive. I'm starting lap 3 with a 69 millisecond lead, and that's always a good sign. I just have to keep it together. I know how to focus on a good lap 3 because I've done it so many times, just today. And by the end of the stairs, I had actually extended my lead. Suddenly, everything feels like it's moving in slow motion, and I understand exactly what needs to happen. I'm ahead by enough that there is no possible minor time loss that even matters at this point. As long as I nail the shortcut, that's it. I can do this. I'm going to get it right here. This one hurt the most. I played incredibly, near perfectly for both lap 2 and lap 3, and I actually kept up with Alberto for 2 entire laps, but it wasn't enough. At the end of the day, this shortcut is essentially a dice roll, and no matter how well I'm playing, this is something I can fail. I just have to accept that. I didn't do anything wrong, I just got unlucky. Again. And as long as I get here enough times, I will eventually make the shortcut. But my hands are hurting. It's been 5.5 hours. Today is the best I've ever played. I don't know, maybe today was the best I've ever played. All I can remember is choking these runs. An hour later, I am on nearly the best pace I've ever had going into lap 3, with Alberto still off screen. I remind myself that I'm playing really well today, and this lap 3 is doable. I take the stairs a little wide, but it's okay. I've set up myself in the exact same situation I was in 1 hour ago. These opportunities don't come often, and it's okay if I've failed, because as long as I don't give up, this one was not a good run. I'm going into lap 3 with a 0.1 deficit, which is not possible to overcome. But hey, this run's already dead. Let's risk it on lap 3. After all these runs that could have been the run that beats Alberto, I had still never achieved a single lap 2 or lap 3 that was faster than his. My strategy was to cheese his lap 1 with a huge lead and just not lose too much on the rest of the run where Alberto is clearly better than me. But look at this, I can be better. I'm better at this track. I've put over 200 hours into Hyrule Circuit. I've been so close so many times, and it's not fair. I'm not better than Alberto, no, not even close. And I know that I never will be, but I deserve this one, because I can be better on this track. I can be better just once, and I can do it today. Yes! Yes! Let's go! I didn't think I beat it. Oh. 0.516, 0.516. I knew that until I saw 0.514 and then I just didn't. I just forgot. It wasn't a good lap 3. Oh, I almost choked it at the end. I've been working on this for months. I beat Alberto. I'm top 10! Yes! Yeah, I'm uploading that. Oh. Wow, it was a 5-coin run. That's crazy. 5-coin run is superior after all, huh? Oh, these stairs are so bad. I think this could have been my best lap too, if the stairs weren't so bad. That was a really close shortcut. I almost hit the grass. I still remember. So it was that was close. It was right here where I lost all feeling in my hands. I was like, I've never been so far ahead. And these stairs are not very good. That's where Alberto caught up. And this section was also not very good. The shortcut, I finally got a good shortcut on lap 3. And I thought I choked it again. I beat him by 1/500th of a second. That's less than 1 frame, by the way. I was thinking if I beat Alberto by 1 frame, I'll have a sub 0.5. I couldn't do it. I beat him by 1/8 of a frame. Oh. That one was for you, Rod, the red Yoshi. Look at that. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, I'm tied 9th. Wow. Wow. I'm actually up here now with the big dogs. Shortcat with the big dogs. Let's go. This means so much to me. I'm so happy I got it. Yeah, so what really made me want this? Like, obviously, I can make a sick video out of this, but
Of course.
also, like, as an adult and talking to other adults, it's so common that we kind of limit what we think we can and can't do because, like, oh, I'm not young anymore, right? If I was younger, maybe I could become so much better at this. But, like, I remember what it was like when I was younger, and it was nothing like what you said. I didn't improve at the rate that you were talking about.
Yeah.
I pursued so many things when I was younger, and I got good at them, but like never top in the world sort of good, you know?
Yeah.
And I did have, you know, all day to spend on it and think about it. But at the same time, like what I have now that I didn't have back then is now I have better practice techniques. I'm more disciplined. I know the right things to do. I'm better at controlling my emotions.
You have a lot of advantage against most people that try a record for the first time because you know a lot of about the approach.
Yeah, exactly. But like I had to learn these. I didn't naturally have this when I was younger. So like I don't know if you put me back to 10 years ago or 15 years ago if I really could have done better than I did today. And so what made me really, really want this is to kind of prove that there's certain things that I still can do, even though I'm out of that prime age to improve at it.
Yeah, I guess so. I never thought about it, but that's really it.
And, you know, maybe part of what allowed me to want it so much is that because I get to make a video about it, I get to try and prove this for people all around the world. And maybe they can be inspired by this.